Let it be known, the best controller in gaming is the nunchuck.
Let's get into it.
So, that was a joke. But what is actually the best controller in gaming? You're going to say a wrong answer right off the bat.
I don't know, I'm pretty torn. One of my favorites.
Yeah.
While there has been a few technological issues with the earlier models, the Xbox One controller.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, fantastic.
It's got a better D-pad than the 360 controller. I'll give it that.
It does. The D-pad could use a little work, and there was the early problems with the left thumbstick kind of always sending
that
you
seems
forward.
to still be a problem.
Apparently it's not a problem on the newer ones.
Really?
Yeah.
My brother got his at like Christmas.
And he has that issue?
Yeah.
Maybe just got a really old product.
Maybe he could have.
Yeah.
I guess that's possible.
It makes sense given where we live. But
yeah.
Yeah, honestly, the form factor, it feels like the right size, kind of bulky. I am significantly more of a fan, more big fan, more whatever. I like it better.
I like it better
when the thumbsticks aren't on the same.
You like off-axis
thumbsticks.
It's tough to word sometimes, dude.
Off-axis thumbsticks.
Yeah, I mean, I've played the Xbox controllers. I played the 360 controllers and these things.
Another good controller.
I don't like them. You know what my favorite controller is. Oh,
the DualShock. Hopefully the DualShock 4.
Well, actually the Atari 2600. But yeah.
Joystick.
Yeah, it is the DualShock. The DualShock 3, I should mention though, the 6-axis controller, I didn't like that. It was not nearly heavy enough. That was when the PS3 originally came out, and it didn't have DualShock in it. The DualShock is what you needed for that little extra weight, so it feels like something sturdy in your hands.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Surprisingly important.
The DualShock 3 was fantastic, but I mean the DualShock 4, I just don't think there's a better controller in there. I think the light on the front is a little annoying, I'll give it that. And the touchpad is underutilized, but they're there if you need them and if something comes up with something creative for it. So I like that.
My biggest complaint about the DualShock 4 is just being a little bit on the small side. Not so much in like the width of it, but like the handles themselves. I would like them to kind of fill out my palms like a little bit more while I'm gripping it.
I guess I get that.
Other than that, yeah, it's definitely like a fantastic controller.
It is good. Now the worst controller, I think, is actually the N64 controller. I don't know who that was designed for.
Made no sense.
Like it has 3. It's
I say it made no sense. It kind of made a tiny little bit of sense.
How are you supposed to hold it?
And that
on the ends? I always did the ends. Or are you supposed to hold it in the middle one?
Yeah, the middle one. So I'm pretty sure what the
So the other one just like locks you in place so your hand doesn't leave, or was it?
Yeah, it doesn't go to the left. No. I think the main idea behind it was that, okay, maybe this analog stick thing doesn't take off because they didn't know that back then. This was that long ago that like they didn't know if the analog stick would take off. So they're like, okay, let's just have the controller work with the analog stick, or we can make it kind of like the Super Nintendo controller and have a D-pad and buttons. And that's precisely what they did. They made a controller that would work if the analog stick bombed.
Yeah.
And it was a terrible design result.
The analog stick's a good idea, guys. You should have just stuck to your guns on that one.
They should have been confident in it, yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. But
have you used an N64 controller even somewhat recently? Like anytime after like the PS3 360 generation?
Maybe once. Actually, a girl I was dating, she got me because she thought this was a good idea because it was retro. She got me a controller that you just use for a computer.
Okay.
That was in the N64 shape.
Oh, that's nice.
And I was like, oh, this is the worst. And then it required like a disc drive, and I was like, I don't use discs.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't use this. She's like, oh, you hate it. I'm like, well, I do hate it, but yeah, it's the worst controller. Why would you?
Anyway. The analog stick on it though sucks.
It does suck.
Terrible.
It doesn't stay in place.
Yeah, it's so loose.
It's always kind of moving.
Yeah, you need to hold your thumb on it.
Or it's just going. It's literally just gonna fall down. Like it's pretty bad. The one you think is good, the GameCube controller.
Oh man, I love that controller.
It's so weird. It's just such a weird kind of control. It's like they just took a bunch of shapes and we're just like, okay, There, my creation is complete. Like, it's weird.
Well, like, the overall shape of the controller is kind of similar to, like, what the 360 kind of controllers got going on.
It's got a bit of a bubble butt, but yeah.
That's where the rumble pack is. Anyways.
Yeah, it is.
Ooh. The 360 controller had a way weirder back. Do you remember the battery pack thing?
Oh,
yeah.
how were you supposed
that thing
to
was
do
so
that?
uncomfortable.
You're just like supposed to like cram your fingers in there.
I was like resting mine on the battery pack, which kind of made gripping it a little more difficult.
Yeah, it's not good.
Actually, I just used wired because those controllers are so much better than the wireless ones.
The wired ones are way better, actually. D-pad still sucks.
But yeah, the GameCube controller, one of the huge reasons I like it so much is because of the face buttons. Oh my god, they make so much sense from a design perspective.
Why?
Because you got your A button, big, green, in the middle.
Okay.
Like, so obvious that it is the main action button.
Yeah.
And you got the B button kind of down, bottom left. That's like iconography. That's like, we're just kind of used to being like the secondary.
Okay.
So that kind of makes sense. And then the Y and the X buttons, man, they're in such comfortable position
They're like
to
the
hit
weirder buttons. Yeah, I guess.
If your thumb's on top of the A button, because with like the Xbox controller, if you have your thumb resting on the A button, you're not going to be able to hit, I guess it'd be Y and B in that case, as easily as you could on a GameCube controller. And that's part of the reason I like it so much. It also had fantastic triggers.
A controller that I think was bad was also by Nintendo. The Super Nintendo controller. What was going on there? It's just like you need to keep reaching over too far, I think. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
It was kind of weird. I think it was part of it's like a product of the time, you know.
Yeah.
We know much better now about like controller design and that, but it's so much better than the NES controller.
The NES controller
That thing
wasn't
almost
great.
hurt.
Yeah, it was too rectangular.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, let's just give them a box. Like, it's, you can cut yourself with that thing.
Yeah,
Do some
just
shaving.
How thin it is weird too. I always felt like I was pinching it.
Yeah,
to hold on to
you
it.
kind of are. Yeah, it's like just like a piece of cardboard someone handed to you. Yeah, it's not great. I don't know. My thing about the DualShock is just, I just love the buttons. They're so good. They're just in perfect placement. I don't know. That's what I like about
that
it.
diamond placement's like very.
It's so iconic. At
the
this
D-pad
point.
on it's like so good.
Something they noticed though, actually, when making the DualShock 4 is that on the DualShock 3, the distance between the square and the O, and the X and the triangle was different. Yeah. One was longer than the other. I can't remember which one. But yeah, they made it symmetrical. On the next one, they're like, yeah, we didn't even know, but slightly different. It's like, oh. And then I'm really happy they went from analog buttons to digital buttons. Because the analog buttons I found with the PS2 and the DualShock 3, it would like, you weren't really getting any benefit out of pushing it down a little bit, then pushing it down a little bit further. No one was utilizing that. Yeah. And it was really unnecessary.
I think, I think it's really unnecessary for face buttons.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons I love the triggers on the GameCube so much, is because they had that very long analog press and then a digital press afterwards.
Yeah. So there was the multiple things that you could do. What games took advantage of that though?
Melee has a lot of like, specific stuff that relies on it.
Oh really?
Yeah. I'm not sure how many, like, because they don't stand out to me. Like, all the games that used it in such a sensical kind of way, where it's just like, okay, I'm holding it down more. That means it's gonna like, push me to the right more. Like, driving games were fantastic with an analog trigger. So that actually controls your throw.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. So now to end this thing, what is your ideal controller? Like, I mean, not what does it look like, but what is the ideal controller in your mind?
I think it would be the Xbox One controller shape.
Okay.
With the Xbox One controller joysticks, the DualShock 4
okay.
D-pad,
okay,
and the GameCube's base buttons, and the bumpers would be the Xbox One, and the triggers would probably be the DualShock 4.
Interesting.
Yours?
Probably just the Wii U gamepad.